one of the world's safest mining has produced 75.
You guys can see the slide deck, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. We're going to give everyone another minute or two to join, and then we'll get things kicked off. We'll wait another minute or so. I know it was a little wonky with how the invites had to go out this time. So we'll make sure that everybody has plenty of chance or opportunity to get in here, and we'll get things rolling. All right, we'll get started. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining. This is our sixth EverShield Insider Risk User Group webinar. Had great feedback so far from everyone. Dan, can you let people in? Do you have that while we're making sure we get people that are in the lobby? We've had great participation so far. Each webinar, we keep increasing in size. I think we're up 20 or 25% from this, the last one we had at in Q3. So that's great. Want to say right off the bat, this is the first time we're using Teams. We've always used Zoom in the past. So things are We're working through some kinks. Something that's new this time around. The mics are hot, so you're going to be allowed to ask questions. We want your feedback. What we recommend you do is just use the raise the hand feature, and the presenter will stop or will call attention to the presenter and let them know that there's a question. And you can certainly ask the question through chat if you'd like. We'll be watching chat, but you're certainly welcome to come off mute as well. But obviously mute yourself when we're not when you're not speaking. Next, we'll have the next webinar will be in Q2, so there'll be a save the date coming out here shortly. So you'll see that, and hopefully things will go a little bit smoother around when we send the next set of invites. Oop, there we go. So today's agenda, we'll start with the business update. Then we're going to have a Everview product management roadmap update. Then a professional services team is going to do a presentation best practice on the database health report. Then we'll have the Ever Insight product roadmap update. We'll have an Ever Case product update that primarily is going to be around the Everview, Ever Case integrations and how to triage in Ever Case. Then we'll have a presentation on the unified roadmap and prototype. And finally, an EverShield information and troubleshooting dashboard presentation. And we'll end with Q&A.
No, y digo, y sí está mostrando, pero sí, ya.
All right. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Yeah, very good. All right. Good morning, everybody. The next one. Ooh, I deleted this slide. Go ahead to the next slide, please.
All right.
No, you're in the wrong. This is
Is
not
the
the
wrong
same
one?
deck we were just looking at a couple minutes ago.
No. All right. Well, hold on here 1 second.
Okay.
Let's see what I can do.
Sorry about that.
1 second. Like I said, technical difficulties.
I can bring it up. I need to.
Maybe just do that. That way we know that you'll have the right one for you.
All good.
Sorry about that.
Here we go. It's coming up. All right. Let me share. All right. We can see that.
Yes.
All right, very good. All right, these are the slides that I updated. So first up is topic for the business. So first of all, thanks everybody for joining. We find that the user group meeting is a fantastic way of connecting throughout the year, giving you some updates about what we're up to, what we're working on, some of the things we're thinking about, considering, and so on.
Dan,
You're muted.
sorry, you somehow popped on the mute.
Looks like he went on mute and then I was taken
How about
off
that?
mute. I didn't see anybody else was.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody's clicking mute buttons around here, but
Yeah. Sorry
okay.
about that.
All
Not really
good.
sure again, we're working through kinks, but go ahead, keep going.
All
Sorry
right,
about that.
very good. All right, so first up, talking about the EverShield Insider Risk Customer Technical Exchange, kind of augments what we're doing here in the user group meeting. This is an annual event that's held in Salt Lake City, in-person event, typically 2 days. That's conversation, heavy concentration and presentations by product managers, product owners, engineering, professional services staff, and it covers what's happening in detail with the solution sets. Sometimes we solicit feedback from you about certain features, what's important, what's not important, latest issues and challenges that you are experiencing, and so on. This is typically held in the like the fourth quarter, third or fourth quarter this year. Right now, we've got it penciled in for the beginning of the fourth quarter. But I will tell you that, like every year, we begin to these announcements, around this time, March, April, May, and we get some enthusiasm. We get some folks that are interested and express some interest in attending. But it's been lightly attended the last couple of years, and so I'm here today to ask you, give it some thought, see if this is something that you're interested in. I've got last year's agenda up here on the screen. And my question to you, my call to action today is send me an email. My email's right here. Would you attend? Will you attend? Do you plan on attending? Again, 2 days, Salt Lake City, and we provide typically, a morning, breakfast, bagels, and coffee, and we jump right into sessions, have some box lunches delivered to us. Typically on the first night, we have an evening event, local establishment. We all get together. I think it was a taco place or a pizza place last time. And then do it all the next day, and then wrap up around 4 o'clock so you can boogie on out of there and get back home. So again, if you're interested in attending, please drop me a note so we can begin to plan this year's event. Questions for Dan on this? Anyone? Feel free to jump in. Okay.
This is Shabu. Yeah, this is Shabu.
Yes.
For anyone that's not attended these TEMs before, they're really a great way to interact with your fellow customers that are using the same solution, get lessons learned, share policies, all that kind of stuff, and also get direct access to the engineers and help to impact the roadmap. So it's a great opportunity to attend and really contribute to the overall product roadmap and future.
Yeah, and it's not just discussions, right? Bo, for example, who's the product owner for our UAM solution, he has for the last 2 years had like a futures lab sitting there, so you can look at the next version of the solution that he's working on, and you're talking right to the person who's responsible for putting requirements in, taking them out, making adjustments while you're sitting there looking at the screen. So it's a powerful opportunity to influence the way the solution is developed. And in fact, it's really the hallmark of how all these solutions have been developed. We've conducted these TEMs with the different customer sets. As you know, we have a broad set of customer sets across customers across a lot of different sectors besides just commercial. And so getting them, getting those users in a room, giving the direct feedback is how the product became what it is today. So it's very powerful for us. Results in a better solution coming out the doors for us, and a better solution, on your desktop. Okay. Anything else to add on that before we move on? Any other questions? All right. Very good. The next one, the next topic just speaks to the critical pathway. Critical pathway to insider risk is something that a lot of organizations adopt and have adopted as their model for risk management, analysis, analyst training, justification and explaining the program and the purposes of controls and so on to organizational stakeholders. And an element of this is the idea that the pathway is something that's somewhat predictable, and if used in a specific manner, can provide like repeatable measures of risk. And one example of that is the critical pathway to insider risk index. And I'm just putting this up here because we have an ongoing relationship with Dr. Eric Shaw and others at the Insider Risk Group. And many of us have attended, and I don't know how many of you may have attended the Critical Pathway to Insider Risk Analysis class. And I wonder, Mike, can we do show of hands? I think we can do a show of hands. Can we do a show of hands if you've attended taken the critical pathway to insider risk analysis training, or if you're using the critical pathway to insider risk as part of your methodology for describing risk in your environment, maybe just a show of hands. I don't know if we can see that or not. Maybe not. Okay. Well, I bring this up because one of the things that we're looking at, and we're in discussions with Dr. Shaw, is the idea of bringing in the critical pathway to insider risk index. So this is an assessment tool that the insider risk group has created, and they describe and teach in their critical pathway to insider risk, the analyst training itself. And the purpose of the index is to define. It's like a 30-page assessment. It walks through the predispositions from the chart. I'll go back to that slide. It has assessment components that involve grading by an analyst personal predispositions, stressors. So there's a section on personal stressors and professional stressors and so on. So in other words, this is an assessment that an analyst would sit down and say, hey, we think something's going on with Bob. Let's put this in perspective. And you walk through this assessment and you get a score. And the score, by answering kinds of questions and providing the appropriate grades, you get a score, and you find out where your subject falls out among other known bad, and you get a number. I hid the numbers here, and I didn't show all the text here because this is trademarked and so on, and so we can't distribute this. However, I am interested in knowing. Are you interested in seeing this, or those of you in Evercase, are you interested in seeing an automated version of this? So I'm looking at creating these forms in the Evercase solution to kind of automate, bring this capability into the Evercase case management solution, so that an analyst would have at their fingertips this kind of an assessment, provided you've taken the training, but having this kind of assessment as a component of your case record, something you could bring up optionally if you elected to use it, and produce the final scoring summary and like report narrative. So I'm really interested in understanding whether or not anybody's using this, or how widely it's being used amongst this user group here. It's heavily used in government, but in the commercial setting, it's a hit or miss. So my email is there, dan.velez@everfox.com. If you're using the critical pathway insider risk methodology, drop me a note. Tell me about it. I'm interested in getting your feedback and really gauging the interest of putting a little some of our energy into automating this report and index. Any questions for me before I turn it back over to Mike? All right. I'll be looking for your email. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Even though I tried to trip you up there. Nice job.
It's all right. All good.
All right. Next we have Steve Seuss. Steve's going to provide the product roadmap update for Everview.
All right. Can everybody see my screen? We all know where we are. We are Everfox, talking about the product roadmap update. I'm just going to, just so you know, and leading into this, I'm just going to talk about UAM right now. I'm going to come back a little later in this presentation and talk about the big picture. So if I'm not touching on something that you're interested in, keep in mind that that's probably something I'll cover in the big picture piece. So looking into this, I do want to talk about there's changes to the roadmap. So if I briefed you at the end of last year or sometime maybe even earlier this year, there's some big changes that we've done. It's good news. It's interesting stuff. One thing that is changed there, we talked a lot about a early access beta program. We're gonna drop that as a large program. There may be one or two one or two customers that we work with on something if we need to, but that was actually dropped in order to accelerate a generally available elastic-based UAM solution. That was identified as something that we could do to save time in getting you something that can actually work in a production environment. So when I'm talking about this, there's the GA'd solution. Actually, if you look at the roadmap, the timeline on that has stayed consistent, but the scope of what we're doing with that has expanded. The one thing that could be confusing on it, if you were looking at it last year, is we had a beta that was going to be later this year available to some customers. But let me remind you what that beta it was and why we didn't feel like it was useful, especially talking to some of the customers that were really looking into that and doing it. The feedback we got was, yeah, that's interesting. We'll do it if it's available, but if we can get a more complete GA'd Elastic version, and talking to customers at events like this, and that feedback is what we use to change this. So that beta was going to have a parallel Oracle instance, and the early GA was going to have a parallel Oracle instance in some fashion. Now that may have been minimized, but you still have Oracle in your environment. When I'm talking about the Elastic GA'd UAM release in the roadmap coming up, I am not talking about a release that has Oracle in it. That's a change. That's a good change. I think everybody can agree. That's a much more complete and better solution for you, and it gets rid of a duplicate vendor and all these different things that cause complications. Not to mention, Oracle is something that some customers have to put effort into keeping in their environment because of corporate policies against it, all sorts of things with it. The other thing with the original GA was that it was going to be built on the current platform, the G2CP platform. We're building a whole new platform for it. So again, the scope is increased. The other thing that was going to be there was that there was still going to be the thick client with EAS. So the policy workbench was going to be in the thick client, and admin workbench was going to be in the thick client. The new version is going to have both of those completely in the unified web UI. A much, much better solution. Again, when we sat down and talked to different stakeholders and showed them different pathways and options, it was unanimous. Nobody thought that this path was worth staying on in order to get a beta out this year. Leading into this conversation, I just want to remind everybody, there's going to be a transition period once there is a GA, especially for the larger customers in this group. Your upgrades and migration to the new system may take a little time and planning. This is just a reminder here that we're going to continue to support the legacy platform, security patching, and all the things that we do to maintain your authority to operate, your permission to run the system while you're going through that. You'll have plenty of time if you need it. We do, once you're ready, we do want to be able to support you migrating rapidly on that if that's what you want to do. So looking at the roadmap, and again, I'll come back with a bigger picture roadmap that I'll touch on some other things, some more of the platform things and stuff later in this work group. But something I do want to point out, so you'll see that the platform releases this year in half one and half two are sparse. That's because everybody's heads down and working on the next generation. So the platform releases will maintain the monthly patching. We do have a 9.5 server release that we're planning for the third quarter here. That's really just that's updating technical debt and those types of things. We're not planning to introduce a lot of new functionality in that because we want to focus on the next generation platform. One thing that will be done in that is support for future collectors on the agent side. So we've identified a number of collectors that we want to build for the future, and we want to get where it does require server support for that, server support in for those collectors. So there is innovation in it, but it's supporting innovation on the agent side. Talking about innovation on the agent side, the big theme for this year is really doubling down and working tirelessly on the Mac endpoint. We really feel like, and we're hearing from you that Mac adoption is increasing across many organizations, and it's becoming a more and more important endpoint. So we released, so this in the first half 2026, we released the Mac endpoint with web URL collection, giving you better visibility into browser activity collector. It tells you what URLs people are going to. There's also file activity collection, that data in motion type of collection, and screen collection support for Sequoia. On the Windows side, we've had a bunch of new things, OCR and print, and the clipboard paste collection is something that's being worked on and coming. So that's going to be interesting. That clipboard paste collection, I expect in the first half of 2026. It's possible that slips into the second half of 2026, but that would only be so that we could make sure that that's a more like a fully complete solution. So some of the trade-offs for that would be being able to collect that paste in all of the major places that you have users doing interaction. So, but that would, I'm not talking about late 2026 for it. It would be early 2026. So we're talking about difference of a month or so, more so than multiple months differences. So rolling forward in the second half, that's where we get the more complete Mac picture of web activity. So that's something that's again an area that we've heard feedback on, and that getting visibility in that behavior is really really important. There's a clipboard collector for Mac as well. So very shortly, or maybe right around the same time period, you'll get clipboard collection on the Mac as the paste collection on Windows. I say paste collection, we already have copy and all that type of activity collection on the agent, have had for a long time on Windows. Talking about the second half, this is something that's not on, and you see it here in the future, but we've had some good research on print collection on Mac, and it looks like that's something that possibly could be moved forward into this year. And we if it's at all possible to get you print collection on Mac, we will. Something that we're hearing from the field more and more is data exfiltration is moving to older channels of exfiltration, and print being one of them. People are printing stuff out and walking out the door. As other protections and other systems are getting better, they're going back to sneaker networks and things like that. So print collection, getting that out to you is a priority for us. And if our research and innovation there can move it forward, we will. On the platform side, I'll talk more about this later, but I do want to call out in the UAM section here. There will be a new admin workbench on web, policy workbench on web, a new UI, and actually in investigation workbench on web. While it will look similar to how it looks now, we've spent 3 years innovating on that and really getting to where we've gotten with you with IWW. We've run out of the technical capabilities of our infrastructure on it, so we've innovated as in some places as far as we can on the current infrastructure of it and current technology. We're replatforming that into new technologies so that it can be even better. And one of the big areas for that is on loading large amounts of data into IWW. On EAS, it would continue to load in new data as you scroll down, which thick clients are good at doing that kind of thing. Web clients are not. we'll actually have IWW where it can load in new data as you're scrolling down or as it comes in. And that's, like I said, while it will look familiar and work in a way that you're familiar with, it's all new technology on it. So that's really exciting. And again, it's those last little bits of sticking points on the IWW, really closing out the one or two little things that EAS could do that it couldn't, and going beyond what EAS can do in a big way. And then the container platform, I'll talk about that a little bit in my later section, and some of the more of the details on that and the benefits of it. But it's pretty exciting stuff. All right, so I just went through, the kind of fire hose. I'd like to take a second here and see if there's any questions or field anything. Did anything come in the chat when I was talking, or?
Nothing. No, nothing yet.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, Steve. A lot to take in there. A lot of new capabilities coming out, especially around the agent side. So appreciate the update. Next we have Carlos from my professional services team. Carlos is going to go over the database health report. So Carlos, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, let's start with the basics. Can you hear me?
We got you.
You got me. Okay, cool. Let's do the screen share and see how we do with that. Just a moment. All right, if all is going well, you should be able to see a large Everfox.
Yep, you're
Got it.
good.
All right, good. Okay. All right, yeah, so this slot you're usually hearing from Andrew talking about detection capabilities and that kind of thing. This is more on the admin side, and with the release of Everview 9.4, some things changed. Lots of reporting that used to run through EAS is now either done through EverExplore or DataView, and some things you see in Grafana. There was demand for something that we did have in the previous system. And I think to many of you, what you see here on the left-hand side is going to look pretty familiar. So this was the database health report. And, folks were asked to run these regularly. Especially sites with permanent DBAs and so forth would be going through that stuff. Something to replace this has now been offered. What you see on the right-hand side is what you can have in the cockpit of the database server. If you have recently worked with us, or maybe had a support engagement regarding a database related matter, you might already have this available in your database server cockpit. And we'll go over just very briefly on how to install this, and then what this looks like, and then if you've got any questions, your CSM or support will be able to provide the installation material. But I'll put this on the deck here. We'll do a live install, but this might just be easier to see. So you'll be after a zip file. You see here the DB daily check zip. As root, you'll just unzip that, change permissions, and you'll be able to run it. At this point, the installer will pause, and a lot of the things you see here that have the word export next to them, these are things that may differ if you've got a custom environment. Let's say maybe your system was already a Fit8 system before you upgraded to EverView 9.4. It could be that your C60DB owner is in fact a Fit9 DB owner, something along those lines. But the installer pauses here and invites you to make any changes to the config file at this point. Obviously, any questions regarding this, we're here to help. After you agree to that piece, the installer will continue to run through, and then it will actually produce a report for you. You will have to update Cockpit to be able to see the thing. That means I hit F5 or something similar, and at the top of your Cockpit, you'll get a new section labeled Apps, and the DB Daily Check is, a piece you'll see there. Out of the box, this is going to work for the admin user. I know many of you use additional accounts for managing these servers. So we have got the option here of adding a user. So here I've got another Red Hat user called dbadmin. You should run through this add cockpit user script from the same install location. And here we are. dbadmin now also has access to this report. So what we'll run through now is we'll just install this on the machine, and then we'll talk about what's in the report. There's a lot of things in the report. Some of these are, designed for DBAs doing tuning stuff, but there are some sections that I'll just briefly go over that are really the health indicators of that of the system. So I'll just change what I'm sharing. Okay, so hopefully you're now looking at a remote desktop session.
Yep, looks good.
Good stuff. All right, so I think Andrew's kindly volunteered that we install this on his system. So we'll SE over to root. I'll unzip the file. And I'll just show you what's in here. So there's the script we're going to use to install the piece, and that adds cockpit user command is also in here. You'd be able to use to add users other than admin. This is the pause. Not sure if this is big enough for everybody. Maybe we can change that a little. Again, here you're invited to make any changes if you have a custom environment, but do reach out if there's any questions on this. We hit enter, and then it'll take a little while for this report to be generated. So let's live through that. And so this report will have everything that the older style DB health report had, but it's also got lots of additional information. And it will possibly look a bit overwhelming at first glance, but it really covers the same info the previous system did. All right, so it's completed. We'll hit F5. We should get our apps. Here we go. And there it is, our DB health check. So I'll start at the top. Maybe we can make this bigger again. Yeah, all right. Top section is obviously just a overview. It's like the operating system, database version. So we can see Andrew's a little bit behind on his G2CP platform, and Oracle patching. System has been up for 4 weeks. Agent count, this is handy. This will show you just in the last 7 days how many unique agents have checked in. That could be handy, you know, if you haven't cleared out what's visible in the workbenches for a while. This is a pretty good temperature reading on what's going on. The next really important section is this here with the partitions. So many of you are using the Oracle Enterprise database. With that comes daily partitioning. So for each day, there's a fresh partition, and this helps in performance when the database is being queried, but also when old data is being deleted. And what the system does, it creates 10 partitions in the future, so that when fresh data comes in, there's always going to be a place to put it, and the system remains performant. So a key thing to note is this future partition count. You either want to see a 10 or a 9. So, you know, depending what time of day you've got this configured to run, or what time of day your nightly jobs run, this could drop to 9. But if you're not seeing a 9 or a 10 here, that is, you know, cause for concern. Maybe, you know, gather some of this information and open a support ticket. The other thing to look at on this section is this records in current. Current is where data ends up or ends up being trapped if there isn't an available partition to put it in, and that will impact system performance. So if you're seeing something here, records in current not being 0, you know, that's something to look at. You'll notice at the bottom of each of these sections there are some tips of what it means and what to look at. But I think for many of you who are familiar with the old DB Health report, it's just going to be a matter of you know, where to look in this new format. This piece here, primary account, also useful. It will tell you if you've got any accounts that are going to get expired or already locked. So in Andrew's case, it looks like he's circumvented expiry, so he's sitting pretty there. But maybe we'll look at some other examples here in a moment. But that's a good indication of knowing when accounts are going to expire, and you can, you know, come up with a plan to do something about that. At current, an account set up for EverExplore is not listed here, but that is probably something we're going to change in the not too distant future. This table space section, not something you really had in the old system. You've got a max size and a current size. If those are approaching each other, that may be something to dig into a little deeper. DB alerts down here. This is a bit more straightforward. Oh, we're not able to scroll. So this DB alert section, you know, if there's alerts, they need looking into. So do open a ticket with that info. Maybe because of the screen sizing, I've snookered myself here. All right, let's try and connect to another system. We'll scroll all the way. Okay. This is a system in much worse state of repair. You'll see future partitions -1, so I haven't got future partitions, and data is piling up in P current, so problem. And I've got actual alerts, DB alerts. So here's information that'll again be useful for starting a support ticket with if you have something in here. A very important section for most of you will be this RMAN backup. So the Oracle prescribed backup method for the product is RMAN backups of the Oracle database.
Hey, Carlos.
Yeah.
There is one question in chat related to admin access needed. It says limited access with a lock -top-right. That was a minute ago.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm
So
not sure.
that's this thing here. Yeah. So to make some of the changes here in the cockpit, you'll need admin access. So that's just something you can log into here. It doesn't appear that you need admin for the to look at the app, but to make some config changes in this section, you'll need that admin access, and that can be granted to customer accounts too. So if folks don't want to use admin and they've set up their own company XYZ admin, we can use that there too. So yeah, RMAN backup, it will be a list of completed and failed. As it says here, if you've got a failed but the exact same backup type, so whether that be a full or an incremental or an archive log, if there's a subsequent completed, you're in good shape. But this is a very handy way to see how backups are going. There's a summary of things that aren't backed up. Typically on a system that will be the future partitions, and maybe some very recent items. Splog errors, again, if you have information in here, you'll be wanting to open a ticket with that, or consult your in-house DBA resources if that's the route you're going. This job status is pretty much like for like what we had in the previous health report. Most of these jobs run overnight. Some of them run hourly, but 100% is good. This 0% here would want investigating.
Hey, Carlos, got another question for you.
Oh, yeah.
No. Question of, are there other options to run this report other than the root user cron?
So the actual report is run with an Oracle user cron. The root user cron is exposing it to this app here. So yeah, we could look at methods of grabbing the report basically that differ from this, but the actual report itself, I think, is run using the Oracle account.
Okay, and then the next question is the cron job scheduled to run from the head or the master collector node?
Database.
From the database.
This is on the database
Yes.
server. Yeah, sorry, that's not clear. Bad naming on this server, but yeah, this is the Oracle database box.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll see. Here's the job errors of why this thing didn't complete. So again, that would help point someone in the right direction. What else is nice? Again, most of you on Oracle Enterprise will be set up with ASM disk groups. Typically, you'll have data and slow. So basically, fast solid state storage, and then cheaper, slower slow storage. And this will show you, how much you've got in each. and it'll tell you how much you've got free. And again, you can see on this system, which isn't in good nick, we're a bit low on storage. The daily monthly growth is a handy thing too. Just temperature reading, how much data is coming into the system each month. Can be a nice thing to have ready access to. And then this bottom section of check disk space, that's just the operating system storage, right? And disk use, anything below 80% is deemed healthy. Mount-Crypt 0 is always going to be the biggest, have the most storage. So if you are needing to copy larger files and things over to these servers, we always recommend you use this Mount-Crypt 0 rather than going for home, which is actually quite small and may not survive that. Again, another summary here of what the operating system version is, but that's the new daily check for database. So probably won't mean much to many of you, but others might be happy to know there is a replacement to a report they will have very much been used to using. Any more questions, Mike, or how are we looking?
No, I don't think so right now, but we'll keep obviously keep an eye on the chat, and if any others come up, I'll send them your way.
All right. Let me stop sharing in that case.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Carlos.
To you.
Very informative. Next up, and look at it, we're right on time. Next up, we have Jez. Jez is going to give us the product update and roadmap for EverInsight.
All right, let me go ahead and get the sharing in Teams. It's thinking about it. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep, looks
Yes.
good.
Great. Okay, so we are going over behavioral analytics, formerly called EverInsight. First, we're going to touch on our last release that came out in December of last year, which was Behavioral Analytics 3.8, and why, if you have not yet upgraded or gotten your upgrade scheduled with your professional services contact, you need to. So this was a huge improvement for us. We have jumped up to Elasticsearch 9. Part of the goal here is we are preparing for our unified platform, which Steve and I are going to talk about a little bit later as well. We're getting faster results, more stability with this, all of the improvements you'd expect from the latest version of Elastic. Also, there are security improvements that were done as well. There's also a large number of UI improvements, including dark mode, which you can see a screenshot of here. There's also abilities to, same with bulk apply labels, you can now bulk apply review status. There's a lot of just minor improvements throughout, small functionality things like notes are easier to view. They're easier to see when there's a new comment on an event. All of those just to help make things a little bit easier for the analyst. We've also gone ahead and done a lot of improvements to our UAM integration. We've got new, faster ingest pipeline built out on the latest version of NiFi. Again, speed and stability are the two things that we're getting out of a lot of this. But we also have UI enhancements that were included. So now there's a view source link on any events that came in from UAM that will take you directly to the IWW. So you can see the original content, any video, any other additional data and related events to that might not show up. There's also brand new documentation in this release. The admin guide, the user guide have all been greatly overhauled to make this more useful to the users, to the system admins. And then for this, because there was such a large overhaul, I did bring up hardware requirements, there are no changes needed there to upgrade, which we are very thankful for. I do have a note here that installation will be a rebuild. That's not necessarily true. If you're okay with a little bit of downtime, we can do some in-place upgrades and then just bring down your current Elastic database, export it, pull it into the new one. But if you need absolutely no downtime, there will need to be a rebuild that happens. And then any data changes on the back end are very minor. It will require some reindexing, but nothing significant. So on to our next release, which is coming out later this year. As a reminder, we had our phased updates plan. I've shown this several times. If this is new to you, this is just what we've done and what's still remaining. Our next big release is going to be a large footprint reduction of the system to make it easier to manage. Smaller hardware requirements, we're hoping. That is going to be at the end of this year. We are pulling everything into containers for a faster, more scalable solution. Also going to be more secure just out of the box. We are continuing to improve with UAM. We are going to now be able to clear and escalate events from UABA and have that sent back to UAM. Also, if there is video, that's now going to be a one-click feature similar to how 3.8 has their IWW. We're also adding improved functionality and integration with case management or Yakabod or Evercase. We will now be able to create new cases from the UI if that is set up and enabled and all those products are present, or add events to existing cases. And then again, any feedback that we can get on documentation, what's missing, what needs improvements, we are planning on taking that and continuing to improve there. The other thing that's coming with 3.9, which we're all very excited about, is our linguistic analysis is going to be tightly integrated as an option. So that is a separate product that, if purchased, will be able to take a look at any communications, whether that's emails, chats, voice transcripts, and then it gives an analysis of the tone and intent of the communications. So we will have at-a-glance markers, so you'll be able to see anything in the UABA UI to show where that might, for example, intent to harm, it may tie in there. And then also the scores that come from linguistic analysis, you will be able to tie in with the analytics to get a little bit more accuracy and improved analytics there. We are continuing to improve the UI as we go, as we work on our way to a brand new UI with our unified platform. But some things that we have planned for this release are additional tooltips, specifically around the analytics. So you'll have a clear definition and reminder of what all the different scoring methods are. And then also on the risk score timeline on that very first page that you see, it'll be a little bit clearer differentiation between your highest scoring. So less confusion on what the initial issue is for triage. Getting into the future, we are planning to improve our risk reporting, not just on the individual user, but also having company-wide or department-wide risk reports available and easy to export in email. Simplified logins so that all of the EverShield products will be using a single Keycloak instance and you won't have to log in multiple times to get to any different product in the workflow. And then also adding in some AI with improving natural language searching, so you don't always have to craft RQL queries to find exactly what you're looking for. We will be redoing our ingest pipeline. Again, speed, stability are our main focuses there, also reducing resource requirements and the node count. Same with Elasticsearch. We're going to continue to do improvements on our configurations there and how the database is managed. And then one thing that everyone's excited for is standardized attributes so that typos are a little less common. You don't have to go figure out why your ingest or your analytics aren't matching up. Other things are going to be new views and new reports for linguistic analysis, new charts and reports there, things showing overall company sentiment, overall department sentiment, easy ways to help see if policy changes are having the intended effects. Customizable risk export. So right now you can export that to something like a SEAM, but right now it's just the risk level that's going to be altered. So you can configure it to include things like the risk score and other entity identifiers that you may want to include with that. And then as we go, everything is towards that end goal of streamlining everything for all of the EverShield products. So I thought I cut those slides. Sorry. Other things that we have had high demand for are expanding our entity timeline. And we do know that there's a focus on that. That is something that we're hoping for when we change some of the technology out for the new platform. We will be able to accommodate a little easier. Right now, our entity timeline only shows 1 day at a time. We'd like that to be a week at a time so you can see extended activity a little bit easier. And then also giving you more versions of options for analytics, starting to include AI and ML for creating your lexicons, and also giving the option of Soffit framework for analytics. Language detection and translation has also been a customer request that we know we're going to be pulling in. That is going to be both on the UI side, where you will be able to select text and translate directly within the UI, so you don't have to copy paste to Google Translate. And then also something we're investigating is the ability to include some of this translation on ingest, so you don't need separate lexicons for every single language. We also want to do improved reporting, both from analytics perspective and also just system administration. We will be offering expanded training classes, including details on how to do advanced analytics creation for those customers that want to manage their own analytics. And then allowing the ability to test your analytics before they're actually deployed into production, so you can see results based on what's currently in your database, as well as improving ingest, so it's going to be more of a one-click process instead of the complicated setup it currently is. So that's a lot. That's everything we have planned. Are there any questions? All right.
Thanks, Jess. It was
presenting.
certainly a lot of information, but I think obviously what that highlights is the tremendous investment that we're making in UEBA. Yeah, we have, looks like we have a question. Mark?
Hey, Jessica. Quick question. You mentioned, I'm sorry, I was dual working on something on the side as well. You mentioned something about the Google AI leveraging. Was it Google AI for translation? Was it you said?
So we don't know what we're going to be leveraging for that translation yet. Right now, the way customers will do things with foreign language that they're not prepared for is they will copy paste into Google Translate to see what's said. We want to be able to translate within our own UI. The tool that's going to be behind that hasn't been selected yet.
Okay. So, if companies have concerns about putting their data on public LLMs and, making it public, you still protect your ultimate solution should still protect that, right? Leave it at
Correct.
that. Yeah.
So if we leverage AI, and these are discussions that we're having in-house, there are options we're considering where the customer would bring their own AI. So they would be managing their data concerns there, or it's something that's going to be small and included and not reaching out to any networks. We don't want to ever put the information we're collecting out there. That is up to the companies if they choose to do so.
Sounds good. We're aligned. Appreciate it. Thanks for
I'll touch on that as well, Mark. It's definitely something that we spend a lot of time talking to customers and understanding and having a philosophy that supports data protection, privacy, security, all of these things.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Jez. All right, next up, Dan Coffey is going to present from professional services on EverCase, the EverCase integration with EverView and triaging within EverCase.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Cool. I don't have a fancy slide deck, but I can talk to a little bit of what EverCase is. So EverCase was purchased by Everfox, I guess, back in October of 2025. It's designed as a secure, centralized case management platform that can be used by insider threat and cybersecurity teams. It enables organizations to store and manage cases, conduct structured inquiries and investigations. We have automated workflows that can help facilitate that, as well as generate like detailed reports around all of your kind of case management needs. It's a highly customizable system. And when I say customizable, I don't mean customizable by Everfox. It can also be customized by the customer themselves. We have a user interface in which the customers can tailor their forms, their workflows, and any dashboards to fit their organizational policy processes and any other needs that they may have from a case management standpoint. So with that all being said, I am going to share my screen. I'm going to go over two things today. Oh, first, can everyone see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go over two things today. So first off, there is an Everview to EverCase integration that has been developed by the professional services team. That leverages both APIs in which the Everview and EverCase system both have. And then I'm going to touch on how to perform triage in EverCase, which I'll dive into more about what that means when I get to it. Okay, so I have two systems in this lab. First system, I'm going to show the investigative workbench part of Everview, and then on the right tab, we have the EverCase system. So within the EverCase system, we have cases. So that's marked by this little black and blue icon with a lock button. And then I did set up another form, which we'll get into later, around just an intake form, which really just houses information about a specific intake, which I'll get to here in a second. All right, so on the investigative workbench side, so you can see here that we have a handful of events in which this Mr. Burns has been doing some bad things. I actually grouped these together in this UAM cases section of the investigative workbench. So you can do that by just obviously right-clicking here and then adding it to a case. And so on the case page here, you can see that there are a couple things that we have that I've added that I've customized in here. So there's two new icons on the left-hand side. One is for a status called create a case in EverCase. So that's basically staging it to say, this service that we're going to run is going to go out and say, hey, are there any new cases that you want to create over in EverCase just with this status? And then there's a subsequent status called that there was a case created in EverCase. And so because Marcus Burns has been doing some bad stuff, I'm going to go ahead and group all of that stuff into my case evidence, which I can view here. I'm going to go ahead and actually set the status of this thing that I want to move it over. So via cron job that we can set up on the EverCase system, we're going to go ahead and authenticate to Everview, see what the status are, and then bring that bring some information over. I'm not going to do all the information, and I'll get to that here in a second. But I'm going to bring that information over into EverCase so that I can either perform my triage or start doing an inquiry or investigation on this specific person. So I'll run that script. It's going to authenticate here. And then over on the EverCase side, if I reload this, which, give me 1 second, it did create this new case, because this is how I have it set up. I can create an intake, I can create a case, it can create kind of anything. We can tailor that in the professional services, but it did create this case, 46. It said a whole bunch of things. I did bring over what the name of that case was into EverCase, and then I do have a link back to the investigative workbench that then would point to the inquiry of Marcus Burns. You can see here that it set the status to that there was a case created in EverCase, and then we also put a comment in here that will say what the case number is in EverCase so that you have reference of that within the investigative workbench part of Everview. So that kind of allows you to take those events, group them into a case, and then actually create a subsequent case in which you can run your investigative processes within EverCase, gather more information. The reason that we're not moving actual data over is if you wanted to continue to monitor Marcus Burns or add additional events into the case in investigative workbench, which is why in EverCase we've only given you the link to the case. That way you can continue to build that information up within Everview. If we did pull that information over into EverCase, not only would it be redundant to have it in 2 locations, at least for this integration that I've designed here, we don't want to have redundancy in 2 separate systems, but then you can also continue to build up that case within Everview. Okay. That's what I have for my first demo. Is there any questions? I know that I went through that rather quick. Is there any questions about that integration? So I got a question from Jason. So how does this flow handle custom forms? So basically what would happen is if you had a custom form, say you had an intake, we would just, on the professional services side, we would tweak this integration right now so that we would configure that to point to either the new form or the new fields or whatever fields that you add to those forms. So it's basically like you'd need to have that form set, and then we would kind of tweak that it wouldn't take very long at all. We're talking probably like 30 minutes to an hour to configure everything. And then it would point to that new custom forms or fields or whatever you're talking about. Does that answer your question, Jason? Do you have any follow-ons to that? Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Any other questions on the integration between Everview and EverCase before I move on? I'll give a little bit of an awkward silence before I move on, just in case somebody's typing. Okay. I'll get back to, if anyone has any other questions on that, just feel free to drop it in chat. I'll get to it. All right. So the next portion that I wanted to cover is triage within EverCase. So not everything that comes into EverCase has to be a case, right? There are some things that either get referred to insider risk teams from other groups, or like we just saw in here, maybe those actions in Everview don't necessarily necessitate a case, but it is something that insider risk teams want to be able to do some sort of triage or initial investigation or inquiry on to see if there is a case that they want to create. And so we've noticed in developing systems on the case management side for customers is that they not only want to run their case management, but they want to run their triage too within EverCase. And they want to be able to report differently on those 2 things, right? It's how many triage or how many intakes or how many anomalies, events, whatever you want to call them, how many of those did we have versus how many cases did we actually run within case management, right? So because I said that every case was highly customizable, I did develop a simple intake form that would allow you to, and again, it's highly customizable. This is just an example. All of these fields can be tweaked and tailored to what your organizations need. But basically, this is just an intake form. I say intake, it's just I have something that I want to get into my organization so that somebody can do some initial assessment or investigation or inquiry on it. So this has, we can assign this out to whoever the analyst is going to be that's going to take a look at this. And then it has the intake information around like who the subject is, what the date and time of the event that happened was, what the detected event was, and maybe the source. And so that's going to allow you to report on all of that stuff later down the line. And then underneath of here, we have the intake assessment. And that allows the analyst to come in, make an initial assessment on this, and then do some recommendation. And then I'll get to here in a second, there's an approval workflow that can also happen as a part of this. So I'm just going to do some dummy data here. I'm going to assign this to myself. The subject's going to be Joe Smith. And we'll say something like at 10 p.m. he downloaded. And again, this can come from Everview if you wanted it to. I'm just typing this in manually. 5,000 plus files or 500 plus files from SharePoint, something like that. And we'll say this came from the automated security monitoring. Again, that's just going to help with reporting later. So I'll submit this. I know this has been assigned to me, so let's just pretend that I came into the system, I saw it was assigned to me. I'll make an initial assessment. I think we need to open a case. And then that analyst is going to make an initial assessment to open the case. There is another status for zero it out. That means that you can mark that status as 0. Again, these statuses can be tailored to your organization, and you can do it. Doesn't have to be done by Everfox. So just FYI, this is very simple. So I want to open that case, and you can see here that it's now opened up this open case approval. Another feature that we have in EverCase is the ability to lock fields in terms of who can see it and who can edit it. So we can mark that the analyst can see it, and then maybe only like your insider threat program managers can actually mark these approval fields. So just keep that in mind. In order to simplify the demo, I have access to everything. So let's say that I'm the program manager at this point. I come in, I read the initial assessment, I go through the documentation. I'm going to mark this thing as I want it to be approved, and then they can mark who the actual approver was. And what this is going to do, and what I've set up in the system, is what we call if it's. It stands for if this then do something, which I'll show you how I configured it. But what it did is, since this got approved, is it now I set up one of those automations that would then take this intake and move all of that information into a case, because now I've said that I want to run this as a case, and I want to run all of my investigation processes and that sort of thing. It's a full-blown case at this point. So you can see here that I've moved over the subject, I've moved over what the detected event was originally, what the referral source was, and then even some of the initial assessment that the analyst did back on the intake side. So you're not starting from scratch from this case. It just moved it over into another record that now you can actually start to go through and run your investigation processes. And to set that up, there is an automations tab in here. And so as you can see, it says if whatever these conditions are met, then I'm going to go ahead and copy that resource over. So it's saying if the initial assessment is open case, the approval status is approved, then we're going to go ahead and copy that resource. And there is an object map that the professional services team will need to set up in the back end. Again, doesn't take long. We do have a feature in our backlog to create a UI for this, but hasn't been prioritized. So this is just saying that I have an object map to say these fields go from the intake, go to these fields on the case, and that's how I want to move it. And it's as simple as that. So you have your intake form. If it gets approved to move to a case, it will open up a case in EverCase and you can run that. And that's basically what I mean when we're talking about triage. There's something that you want to take a look at, but it's not a full-blown case yet. And so that's how we handle that for customers in the case management system. So I realized that I just scratched the surface with EverCase. There's definitely a lot more to take a look at. If you wanted to get a deeper dive demo or see some other things that EverCase has to offer, go ahead and contact your customer success manager or your account executive. Thanks. And let me know if you have any questions in the chat. Happy to answer them now on any of that.
Excellent job, Dan. Greatly appreciated. And we're still right on time. So we will move on to, I think this will be a combination maybe of Steve and Jez, or is it just
That
Steve?
is right.
All right. So the EverShield Unified Roadmap and prototype demo.
All right. Well, let me lead us into this. So the way this is going to work, I'll take you through the roadmap piece of it and start to show the UAM piece of it in the demo environment, and then I'm going to hand it off to Jez, and she'll take us through the UABA piece of this. So let me share my screen, and if I can get confirmation that we see my screen.
Yep, you're good.
Excellent. So I will touch on some of the things that we've seen earlier in this. The AI conversation is one that I want to spend a little time talking about, our philosophy on that, and explaining why we see it the way we do, and as well as the overarching philosophy on where we're going with the platform, with the products. So a big piece of that is we call it streamlining. If you look at our current product suite, and we've seen today, there's a lot that goes into it. They can do a lot of things. There's both work that has to be done to keep it, care and feeding kind of work, and there's a lot of complexity there. There's also, if you think about it, a lot of duplication of different technologies in the stack. So if you're running UABA today and UAM today, you have Oracle and you have Elastic. And so you have two different technologies that you have to do different things for to keep them up and running. We're moving towards a future where we have a unified technology stack so that the different products are on the same technologies, and as well as a different mindset in the design and architecture of that. The current state is one of imperative management. Essentially, the system needs your care and feeding. It needs your attention. Carlos did a great job earlier of showing just one area where it demands attention. And if you don't do the things that Carlos was showing you how to do, it will come to a head. It won't just keep working for you. That's something that we want to get away from, you being tied to it. We don't think that the system should be a pet that you have to do that with. You do that because there's a lot of value the system provides you. But what if the system could provide that same value but not demand the same amount of attention? That's a shift from essentially imperative management to declarative orchestration. From a system architecture and design standpoint, there's 100 different places where we are doing things to move to that. I'll talk about a couple here, just as examples. So one of the big examples is moving to from our Kubernetes system, moving to an operator framework. And what that does is the different containers modules within those containers can say, hey, I need this thing, and request it from Kubernetes and get that thing so that you're not having to interact with it. There's places where we would probably want you in the loop. So instead of looking at all that information maybe that Carlos was showing on that, it says, hey, there's this thing, it needs more RAM. Allocate more RAM. yes or no kind of thing. And you can say, yeah, let's do that, or let's provision it and then do it. So you're in the loop on it, but you're not having to look at and interpret things and then figure out what to do. Elastic's really good at that. There's a thing called APM that does the same type of thing on Elastic. Says, hey, this is running too long. Here's why. Here's what you should do. Do you want me to do it? And you say yes. So just a couple examples. The strategic horizons, like we're building the foundation now. 2027, things come together. 2028, it really all hits it together. So as things are coming together, there'll be various levels of adoption of the same technologies or the same instances of those technologies. And going into 2028, there's going to be more of that. Oh, this is just using the same thing, not even duplicates of the same thing from a stack. I mentioned the migration tools. We have Fusion Historical. Some of you have already used it. We already have migration tooling for UAM. Moving into the new thing, we'll see when we have that tooling for that. But like again, for our current systems that we're testing with and everything, we're already using Fusion to move that data. So that's a nice thing that we have with it going into it. So kind of the unified roadmap that we have here, and you can tell that I'm rushing a little bit. I'm rushing to. I want to take us to showing what this is going to actually look like in action. But I do want to touch on a thing. You see AI assistance, summarization, navigation, configuration tuning. I touched on APM, which is kind of a more of an admin type of enablement through AI capabilities. That doesn't use like a large language model to do it, but it does do. It looks like it's using one. It works like it's using one, but it's not built on infrastructure that's essentially unobtainium. So and that kind of touches on how we're looking at AI. There's different AIs than large language models. We're definitely looking at large language models and the use of that or enabling it. But we're also we run that through our thinking. I guess our first thinking is the system has to work without an LLM. And why that is A, you could be using an LLM and using the system, and then you're told you can't use that LLM. So I don't know, that LLM could be put on a supply chain risk list. And so if you're doing business with certain entities, you can't use it, right? There are other things with that as well. Your environment may not allow for it. It may be that you have small enclaves within your deployment that can't have access to it because they're air gapped or otherwise. So we have to design a system that works without it. That also means if you're using it and for some reason you lose access to it, it goes down, whatever happens with it, your system doesn't stop functioning. The next level of it that we look at again is total cost of ownership. Kind of does it increase your value enough to offset the cost of doing it? I built a home lab server at the end of last year. I spent like $500. I used some parts that I had laying around from other servers in my house and stuff. I have 22 terabytes of RAM, and 22 terabytes of RAM, 22 terabytes of storage on that. And actually it's like 42. I have full redundancy on it. 32 gigabytes of RAM on it. That feels like generational wealth right now if you look at prices for hardware. So when we're looking at an LLM, are we solving a problem with it that we can't solve with something else? Something that we're looking into related to Elastic is actually semantic models instead of large language models. Semantic models run on CPU. They run with like your current hardware stack or cloud. Like they run on limited amounts of RAM. You can run them on as little as 4 gigs of RAM. And what a semantic model does, just to talk about it, it actually has benefits over. You can think of it as what retrieval augmented generation would do. It's a librarian, not a writer, except it has benefits over retrieval augmented generation if you want to get to the facts you're looking for without any interpretation, which has its use cases within insider risk. That's really important. And that brings up another rubric that we look at when we're looking at solutions. It's like, well, is this information going to court? Potentially, right? And we have to think about, will this stand up to cross? If you use a librarian and they get you the citations of the data untouched and unchanged and uninterpreted, that holds up in court and you don't have to worry about it. So semantic model has an advantage there. So again, and again, this is our somewhat our philosophy, like the way I look at things, and how we're looking at the decision process, so you can understand how we're selecting what we're doing and how we're doing it and what the thinking is behind it. There's a lot that goes into that, making sure that the product supports you and doesn't undercut you. It makes it easier. It doesn't provide value, but then costs more to do that value than what it's worth. And we're thinking about that all throughout this process. Any questions on that? And then we get to the more interesting, fun stuff in some senses. So this next thing I'm going to show you is a prototype. I will call that out. Like this is, but this is a prototype that we're using to show and communicate what the system is going to look and feel like, how we see it working, as well as innovate on that. And some of that innovation may mean that the system that we release functions a little differently. That's based off of your feedback. So doing things like this, you see something like this, you write a email to me or whatever, you say, hey, let's talk, and we can innovate on that. So can everybody see the system here? So I talked about bringing the back end together. This is bringing the front end together. So you can see, and Jez will take us into the behavioral analytics piece of things and functionality. Right here we have UAM functionality. First thing you see here, and for those of you that are, that are, I've seen it immediately, so you can't unsee it. For those of you who haven't, you have data that would either be an EAS here, like in the investigation workbench, or investigation workbench on web, right alongside data that would be in DataView, or and in some cases when Jez gets to behavioral analytics. That this is all interactive. You can do all sorts of interesting things with it. It's updating those two things together in one place. Really fast, functional. It also removes, like when I talk about making it simpler and streamlining, we're doing this without the back end to the EverExplore. So this is done on the same infrastructure with Elastic, with Kubernetes, like the and the different display pieces. So you're removing a Windows server from your environment, again, making the administrators in the room lives easier, simplifying their stack, all those things. And it also removes, by moving over to Elastic, it removes that separate server that's outside of the Kubernetes cluster. It's all in Kubernetes. So it's all benefits from that operator framework that I was talking about earlier. And again, we wanted to make this intuitive, make things that work well the way they work in a way that you expect. So I can take activity type and do grouping. It just drag and drop. You can see the things by that activity type. Very easy. You can take that off of there. Very responsive. A very nice way to interact with the system. And again, it's not just for the analysts, but we definitely look closely at analysts and how they use the system. But you get the same thing for admins. So your policy admin or a different admin looking at the health of your endpoints. Again, this is a prototype and a representation of how we see it working, but you can really quickly say, oh, I got these 78 unhealthy endpoints. By the way, we hope with the new system, you don't have 78 unhealthy endpoints, but if we don't have in the demo data unhealthy endpoints, you don't see anything here. So there's nothing to show. So keep that in mind. we're adding things that, you know, again, you probably won't see in the new environment, but so we can show what it looks like if you did. Yeah, this policy side, you can see policy information. You can see what, like, again, you see the Ever Explore type view right alongside the policy building type view of things. So you can say, oh, well, you know, maybe I need to look at this for tuning, and you have the data supporting that right besides it. So a lot of work has gone into this, a lot of thought has gone into this, and many of the people in this room have contributed either directly by looking at it and telling us, hey, change this, or your feature requests and feedback we've gotten from your PS resources and sales associate, you know, your sales team have fed into doing this. A lot of work's gone into it. Before I hand this off to Jez for behavioral analytics view of this, are there any questions, or is there anything that anybody would like to see on the UAM prototype? All right. And I will call out, we're going to switch who's sharing, and this is for ease of driving. I believe Jez is on the same demo server as I am, so it's not like we're switching different kind of, you know, mock-up or whatever things. It's all in the same place. It's just for ease of Jez's not having to suffer through me clicking through UABA, that we'll switch sharing.
Yep. So let me go ahead and get this up. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right. So this is, as you can see, the exact same server that Steve was on. I personally don't like having my menu pinned, so I will typically unpin that to give myself a little bit more screen space, because with analytics, seeing all of the data helps. So you can see this looks a lot like our main dashboard in analytics right now. We are trying to keep this workflow very similar while making improvements upon it. So if we start here, we can see Marcus Burns has a risk level of 5 and a last score of 89. We can come over here and see the timeline and see how that's progressively gotten larger. We've got our scenarios, and we see data exfil and malicious user are our two high ones. We can also click on that and drill down and see exactly what that looks like, or exit out. If I want a little bit more info on Marcus Burns, I can pop out his user card and see everything about him, his activity, processes, anything we would be getting from Active Directory or any other things that are integrated here are going to show up. If I just want to see some activity and see some of that, I can drill in right under here and expand that out or collapse it as I want. But I'm curious why he's a 5, so I'm going to drill in on that. You can see it focuses down specifically on him. So we have data exfil, flight risk, and negative behavior. And then we can go into our timeline, which we also currently have. This is a little bit improved. And we can see exactly when and what triggered everything. And we've got a little bit larger view than our standard 1 day that we currently have in analytics. But we can see that there was some negative sentiment, that he's moving hidden files or including hidden BCCs. And then there's some job search. You can see exactly what the sensitive data transfer was, that it was an email sent. If I'm curious, I can click on that and it'll pop up. I can download the email. I can see exactly who it was sent to, who was hidden, and see what he was sending out. And yeah, the Q4 numbers probably don't want outside of the company before they've been presented. You can also see what he's been copying. Lots of different files here. In the job search, we see exactly where he is, that we have a final interview being scheduled. So it looks like he's copying out data and getting ready to leave. So from there, we'd be able to investigate further. We could go to the UAM views that Steve was showing and do searches specifically on Marcus or some of these files and see who else has touched it, or eventually go and send this to a case, which we haven't filled out all of our prototype on this yet. We just have a placeholder for it, but someday we will be able to show off cases to you as well. Another thing I want to show here is what our sentiment analysis or linguistic analysis is theorized to look like. This is probably going to change a lot between when we release, but this is where we are now. We will have rows for showing the sentiment category, some charts, and be able to drill down into things that are concerning, flight risk, executable. There's a lot of responsive charts, and you can see it's updating all the data below that. Any questions while I'm in here on anything analytics related or for the full platform?
Chaz, there is one.
Mhm.
It says Oracle is ACID compliant, whereas Elasticsearch is not. Has it been thought through and addressed for the evidence to be accepted in courts?
That's going to be a question for Steve because we are on Elastic already.
So that is a concern. So just a little background on that for everybody in the room that may be asking the question. So ACID is really looking at the permanence of the record that's being within a system of record. So if you get a different result on the same query of that information, it calls into question that information's solidity, and can basically, it can have a issue in court. And so there is within the stack, so like while Elastic is not ACID compliant, there is Postgres within the stack, which is ACID compliant. And so there may be, the short answer is that there's consideration for it, but we haven't finalized how we handle that piece of it. It may be like one potential solution for that, maybe that within evidence that is going out to court, there is a subsystem of record within that Postgres instance, which does meet ACID compliance, where you can go back to the system of record and see, oh, the evidence hasn't changed. I run the same query, I get the same result. So it's under consideration. It's a great question, and definitely it's something that we're looking at and understand. So. Yeah, but as far as the exact architecture of that solution, that's not something that's finalized.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And Mark, I think Mark had a question as well.
Jess, if you, I didn't see it there, not that it isn't there, but I didn't see it. Is there any thought around sort of adding natural language capability so the analyst can just sort of ask questions about the individual user, about the timeline, etc.?
Yes. So let me pull up my screen one more time. That is a thing I did not show off in this yet. Okay, so we have this lovely search everything up here. Let me clear this out so we're seeing everyone again. And we've got this AI mode where we can either type in up here or either use the prompts or type in whatever you want. So that is the goal, to include either AI prompting or more natural language searching. Again, that is something we are already looking into for UABA before we get to the EverShield platform. But it is something we are definitely considering on how to bring that in for all of our products in this larger
Awesome.
system.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think that's all the questions right now. All right, so we'll thank you, Jez and Steve. So next we're going to turn it over to Alex Dirks. Alex is going to cover the EverShield information and troubleshooting dashboards.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Okay. So for UEBA, EverShield, EverInsight, one of the things we've had a big problem with is it's just complexity. There's a lot of stuff with it, and having the ability to really address what we want to be able to show. So on a troubleshooting methodology, what I did is I built a network diagram. Can everybody see the screen just to make sure?
Yep. We're
No,
good.
okay. So what this does is it kind of shows you, hey, these are all the pieces of our platform and how they intercommunicate. You can click on it. It'll show you all the IP, what it is, description, how to get the Swagger docs, the outbound connections that are required for it to function and what it talks to, the databases or whatever else it is, right? And then what inbound connections need to happen that allow everything else to work. So for example, like our Rose system, it talks to it consumes new entities, it consumes export entity race level, it publishes to Redis ER. So it's talking to our Kafka. We also have pieces where it submits things to errors and everything like that. So all this is a troubleshooting methodology. It just kind of gives you an idea how to do it, but it also has links to go to the UIs and see what's out there. And then I have some drop downs, kind of shows you like these are all the Kafka topics, who talks to them, who uses them. These are all the RabbitMQ queues and who talks to it and how they communicate. The idea here is an easy way to visualize how the system flows, talks, and works. And eventually the next step is going to be adding a system check setup that will actually provide alerts when you click on the API. It'll tell you the status of it and what's down and what's up. Yes, Mark, sorry.
Sorry, Alex, are these internal UEBA connections, or are they kind of like connections from Cribble systems of record that are, travel data or whatever you're ingesting? So can you use this for operational purpose to identify what systems might be down and therefore what data and capability you might have lost during that time?
Currently, it's internal. I like your idea, and I will take it and make it so. We will actually add the inbound connections from a NiFi perspective, or maybe a journaling or whatever it is, and show that this data is coming in and where it's stopped, that kind of thing. We can add that as well. We will have those checks on the sys-check, looking at data is coming in over the past hour, 3 hours, that kind of thing. We can put that status in here as well.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you.
So this just shows you kind of a nutshell of how the system's supposed to flow and work, and give you some statuses. What we also ended up doing is I created this dashboard page, and I was reworking the training that we're doing, and I wanted to create some new lexicon guides and RQL guides. So one of the big things, lexicon, is I went through and really dug out how our lexicons work and broke it out in detail, strategy, how to do it, and with guides and helpful information. The intent here was to provide a updated guide on how all this works and how you can utilize it within the platform in the system. From this, it's a very extremely detailed way of looking through how lexicons work. All right. So with the same note, RQL. You can use RQL inside of lexicons, but you can also use RQL in our platform to do searching. And one of the things we wanted to do was create a methodology to update the search guide. So we call this the new RQL guide, but we gave costs. How do you search? What's the best, most efficient way of searching and meeting that? So in here, what we tried to do is create a way to understand how queries should be formatted, how they work, things that may not know, using Lucene or utilizing some what we call raw search capabilities. So there's a lot of different stuff in here, and it breaks down, if you're looking, what you're looking for, all emails, email sent. It kind of does examples for each thing down the line, and it's a pretty good guide. We would like, as we start pushing this out, anyone who has EverInsight to provide us back, hey, we would like to see more of this, and we'll add those pieces in there and make sure it's all included. But the guide's very detailed, very long, explains it all. We tried to make it as inclusive as possible so you can figure out what you need to see. All right, any questions on the lexicon or the RQL guide? Okay, on the next side, we have there's a lot of debate on how we do analytics. what's the proper way, what's the right way. So I ended up creating an analytic development workflow. In the workflow, the idea is, how would you go about building a actual analytics from start to finish? Lexicons, features, models, scenario, all of it. So we built a analytics chain process on how we do it, and step by step on what you would need to do to create it. And the idea here is that if you're going to build an analytic, this would give you a kind of a walkthrough step by step of doing it, of doing each thing, and how the scores, how the variety, all those pieces kind of work together. This is just a how from start to finish, testing, tuning, all of it, do you create an analytic from lexicon, from words to behavior. All right. The next thing we did is I also created a flow chart, which gives you a good way with some little tables here, so you can kind of watch as it works, and you can move it around. But it gives you the ability to, understand what you're doing, where it goes, if you want to redesign, send it back, all that stuff, right? So it's kind of the flow. All right, next, you understand how to build a lexicon, but now you got to figure out, how do I test it? How do I tune it? So let's say you want to do testing on an actual analytic workflow. So this gives you an idea of how do you test? What do you have to do when something goes wrong, right? And it gives you kind of hints and stuff. Everything goes on, right? How do you do it? I also did the same thing with workflow guide. So we have an actual each step. You're going to interactive flow chart if you want to click on it, but you also have the text lexicons, test the features and what to do. How do you test an RQL model? How do you test the behaviors? What are your next steps? Here's some additional resources, right? And then that's testing. So you're going to walk through each part of the analytical piece, making sure that each piece works. You're going to test a lexicon, make sure it triggers what you want to see. Test the feature. You're going to test the model, make sure you're seeing what's expected, or maybe you need too broad, bring it down. It gives you all that piece. The next part we did was the tuning. So in the tuning workflow, you're able to see, okay, now I've created an analytic and I want to be able to show each step to tune. So as you tune it out, you have to make sure that you're getting the right information. So the same kind of thing as testing. However, now you're looking at the analytics been created, right? I now have I have a story. I have what I want to see, but now I'm getting scores, and I have to go in and say, okay, is the score being too broad? Am I seeing too much? So now you're going to tune it down. So you're going to test the analytic results. You're going to test the models that over detect, under detect. You're going to tune events. Here's your iteration cycle, how to walk through it all. Here's your monthly tuning checklist, key principles, right? And some common mistakes that we know about. Workflow summary, of course, just resources, right? So we're trying to give you a workflow on how you would do these actions, right? The same thing as we created a nice little flow chart for you to put on that one. That was the wrong button. A nice little flow chart to see it. Now this is a little more intense, right? Because you're gonna, as it comes through, you're kind of doing each phase, sideways on it. All right. All right. Any questions on the creation of analytic workflow, the tuning, or the testing? I don't see anything.
Nope, nothing yet.
All right. So let me close all these because it's a lot of stuff. Now we come down to what I think is kind of the fun part. We do we have case management. It's bad saying case management, but it's the kind of the workflow. If you were going to build case material to then submit over to our case management tool, EverCase, or if you're going to, just say you're going to build it into a package, pull it in, give it to UAM. Any way we want to do this, it's a way to track the efforts within the platform. So what we have is the management workflow is step by step, each stage that you would do: detection, initial alerts, what you're looking for, how you're looking for it, how you're going to triage by an analyst, the steps you would do to triage it. You want to do supervisor review. So we're going to have it elevated to the next stage. Then we have manager approval. Now the manager is going to approve the creation of a case or creation of whatever next step we're going to be. Investigation assignment. Now we're assigning it. We're going to do these actions. Active investigation. We're going to actively dig for more information, digging based on what we're trying to find, and just gives detail on that. Evidence export, how we're going to export the data, how we're going to utilize it, right? And then case closure. We're going to close it, assign a new status to it as it's closed, etc. We're going to tag the individual user, what's going on, right? The idea is everything in here shows you kind of from detection to closure, what you can do inside of EverInsight to then take it and give it to EverCase or give it into UAM as a storage unit. Okay. Any questions on this? There's also a nice, pretty flow chart that walks through it as well. Okay. Any questions? Man, no one wants to ask me questions. Last but not least is the day in the life of an analyst. The idea here, I do a lot of demos on how does an analyst use the platform coming in the beginning of the day, and how do you use it, use it with UAM and use it with EverCase, all the different tools you have. How do you use it and things? So we kind of give an idea of, you come in the morning routine for the first 30 minutes, you're going to log in, you're going to do overnight checks, top risk entity looks, you're going to investigate the highest risk, you're going to kind of dig through the stuff. And as you go through it, it just gives you the walkthrough of what you would do each morning, each part of the day, and then some steps. You're going to queue some processing investigation pieces you're going to look at, your my reviews, things that you look at every day. You're going to look at your afternoon activities, which could be follow up on some morning stuff or continue the queue processing, document, etc. And then end of the day, things that you kind of do towards the end of the day, wrapping it up, make sure you've done your notes, you've done your labeling, you've done your packaging, so you have it all ready to go for the next stage. Any questions on this? So the plan is for this dashboard to start being provided with EverInsight. It will be provided in there, and it should be analyzed into their environment. If we got to change the workflow, we can change the workflow to work with the customer as well.
Alex, this all looks great. Is there any kind of timeline?
I'm trying to get it out by the end of the month. And once it's out, we'll package it into a zip. It'll get placed into the basically in the UI server. So it's behind our HTTPS TLS setup in Nginx. But then you'll just type dashboards and this page will show up and you'll get whatever's built. We can add more than this. We can add more different types, expand on what the customers do. So there's endless possibilities. The next step is going to be a syscheck dashboard, which will show the status of all the servers and everything else. That'll work along with the network diagram. That's the next stage that I'm building. But right now, this is built. It's intended to go with the training, but we'll definitely, it's so useful that we're going to get it out to everyone who has EverInsight. Awesome. Any questions? Anything else? I am done.
Well, thank you, Alex. That's obviously, I'm sure everyone's very excited to get access to that. So that's why I wanted to ask timeline. So certainly appreciate that. All right, right on time. If there's any last questions, certainly you can post them in chat or raise your hand. But what I want to do is I want to take the opportunity first to thank all my presenters today. The content was great. Really appreciate you taking the time to prep and deliver these presentations. Special thanks to all the folks that joined. I know it's you're very busy, and so we try to keep these short, sweet, and jam pack as much information as we possibly can into them. The one ask I have of everyone is I'm always looking for feedback. So good, bad, whatever. We're looking for what you like, what you didn't like. Future topics. Always looking for future topics that you would like to see covered by professional services. We're certainly eager to do that. Obviously, we've added EverCase into the mix now, so certainly if there's future topics around professional services, best practices for EverCase, EverView, EverInsight. Everybody has my information because I'm the one that sent the invites out. So please share the feedback with me. And I will collect that and I'll share it with the other folks. We will have one again in Q2. So start looking out for that. We'll have a save the date. And Brad, I saw your message. Dan did cover the TIM at the beginning of the webinar. So certainly more information that'll come out as well about the technical exchange meeting coming up later this year. So again, thank you, everyone. Please provide feedback, topics, and the recording will be available once it's posted on the customer portal. I will send the notification out to everyone where you can access the recording and you'll be able to download it. Well, actually, I'm not positive you can download it, but you at a bare minimum you'll be able to play the recording from the portal. So I will send that notification out here later today once that recording becomes available. Thanks again, and we'll see everybody at the next Q2 user group. Thank you.